Welcome back. Sonia Gandhi chaired the Congress Parliamentary Party meeting today. All the party MPs, including President Mallikarjun Kharge, were in attendance. Now, Sonia Gandhi used this meeting to target the BJP government on a host of issues. She criticized the lack of debate on China, the alleged manipulation of institutions, and also the raging debate over the Collegium system. Sonia Gandhi did not pull her punches while talking about the standoff between the government and the judiciary. She accused the government of trying to delegitimize the judiciary. Now, coming from Sonia Gandhi, that is a huge criticism. She said that even high constitutional authorities are being enlisted to attack the judiciary. That's a clear reference to Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar's recent comments in the Rajya Sabha. He had criticized the courts for striking down the National Judicial Appointments Commission in 2015. This is the first time Sonia Gandhi has spoken on the Collegium debate, and she has used some very sharp words for the government. I'm going straight across to one of the Congress Party's top legal minds, Abhishek Manu Singhavi, someone who advised Sonia Gandhi and the Congress Party on the Collegium issue. Sir, thank you very much. Can I start by asking you about the comments today that were made by Sonia Gandhi? Very sharp. They were not made on the floor of the House, but the comments were very sharp to say that there is a calculated effort underway to delegitimize the judiciary by the government. Isn't that a bit harsh?
This was a Congress Parliamentary Party meeting where I was personally present. According to me, if at all, if you talk of degree, it was an understatement. No question of harsh. Don't forget that the party has considered it internally, reviewed it, and we've taken an informed decision internally, at which also I was the main advisor. Let me just summarize for you the 4 or 5 points arising in your so-called NJAC issue. Firstly, Shreya, the very concept of a government just under 15 months left for its term of 10 years to end or to be over has no business to propose or supposedly propose basic fundamental constitutional changes in the last year or so of its governance. For that reason alone, it is not worth considering. And secondly, for another preliminary reason, they talk about it, they create confrontation about it, but they have not brought in any specific proposal. So we are reacting to non-proposals, hypothetical, speculative things. This is part of their strategy. But now let me come to the substantive part. Shreya, from 2014 till today, anybody will say that it is undeniable that institutions have been undermined, that institutions have been weakened, that there is scant regard paid to conventions, practices, institutional integrity, independence. And this control freak Sarkar has done it across the board. I'm not talking of the judiciary alone, but certainly the judiciary is one thing which they have tried to work upon in terms of undermining and weakening. But investigative agencies, the trio puppet of CBI, ED, and IT, other institutions like the Election Commission, CAG, so many more, the Institution of Governor, etc., etc. Now, if that is so, then it is a very ill-concealed attempt by this control freak Sarkar to orchestrate an ambience. One day the minister says this, another day some constitutional functionary says it, a third day some other minister says it. Create an ambience without being specific, shoot and scoot, and make it one of confrontation without any solution because you want to control the judiciary. You are already de facto delaying things. You are already de facto blocking things. You are already de facto obstructing things. Now you want de jure control. So the answer to the fundamental question which is asked of the Congress every time, we brought in the NJAC. Why are we opposing it now? Well, Shreya, everything is contextual. Everything is in the context of a certain set of facts. Nobody can put his hand to his heart and say that in the last 9 years, the context is not completely and radically changed. So nobody wants to give this kind of a puppet-pulling set of strings to this government, which wants to autocratically superimpose itself on every venerable institution of India.
Sir, you're calling this government a control-freak government that is saying nothing specific, that is shooting and scooting. I get that. But the fact is that there are enough and more people, even from the legal fraternity, who say that there are problems with the collegium system and that the Supreme Court is not above question. Now, if there are problems, you need to fix it. And if the government is fixing it or trying to do that or saying that it wants to fix it, why make them the villain?
The government is not saying let's fix it. You see, nobody is denying problems, but you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't make a remedy worse than the disease. There are problems. Part of the problems, first and foremost, Shreya, are arising from the government end. What is the problem? Delay in appointments, unoccupied vacant seats. At least 33, if not 50% of the problem is because after a second recommendation or after a first approval by the Collegium, the government blackballs it, delays it, returns it a second time, a third time, a fourth time. Number two, if there are problems, yes, exhort the judiciary to improve the problem. Within the Collegium system, make sure that all the High Court collegiums report on time, make a timeline. The delay which is there, which the government faces in the High Court sending it or through the Supreme Court, between the Supreme Court and the executive receiving it, that also can be cured or at least talked about. But what they're talking about is not this. They are saying that give us the power. It would be really like giving a huge destructive toy to somebody who might play around with it, which no other government earlier has done. And let me tell you one thing. A large spectrum, a political spectrum of non-BJP, non-NDA, many of them opposed to the Congress, would not have opposed it at that time because it was a benign liberal sarkar, not a control freak sarkar. The very same entities today across the political spectrum believe that this is far too dangerous a toy to be handed over to the executive to play around with the judiciary. And its larger implications, Shreya, relate to independence of judiciary. As a matter of fact, some of the ministers are now talking openly about basic structure, power of judicial review. Let me tell you, for all its faults, the basic structure doctrine in India is India's pride and the world's envy. A large number of other countries have copied it. You have independence of the judiciary at least relatively, because of judicial review power. If you weaken the judiciary, the source of last resort to the common citizen gets weakened. And I think that's far too great a risk to be taken in the context of this government's track record. Your track record of 9 years makes you the ineligible person, not the concept itself.
Okay, let me shift to the other topic that the government and the opposition are fighting about. Can I ask you why the Congress party and the opposition are so insistent on discussing China? Because the government has said absolutely not. We are not doing it. Then why this insistence?
In fact, I'm quite surprised at your question. Let me turn the question in the reverse direction. Is it even possible to contemplate that I will say no to a discussion? Forget the merits. Forget you are right, I am wrong. Forget I am right, you are wrong. Forget the pluses and minuses. All that Parliament in a very short session is saying that during Parliament session, certain serious national security concerns have come. Can't we just discuss it? According to me, it's a no-brainer. You can't even deny it if you want to give a reason for denial. How can you deny a discussion? You have heavy numbers. You have large numbers. What are you scared of? That you don't want a discussion. It's not a finding. It's not a conclusion. It's not even legislation. What you are running away from on a national security issue is discussion, give and take. And the definition of discussion, which Mr. Goyal and his party are propounding, unilateral one-way statements. That has been the style of the Prime Minister for the 9 years here and for the 12, 15 years in Gujarat. One way, no question, no dialogue, discussions. Statements, basically. That is not what Parliament is for. You don't reduce it to a zero, that your right to question, your right to advise, your right to raise, your right to educate, your right to shock the conscience of the country, that is being taken away. And give me one good reason why, with such tall claims of governance, of winning elections, why a government is scared of having even a discussion in parliament. So according to me, the question, can't even be raised by the government.
Mr. Singhvi, speaking about China, you know what is happening there. I don't have to tell you, there's been a COVID explosion. In view of that, the health ministry and the minister have advised Mr. Rahul Gandhi to suspend his Bharat Jodo Yatra in national interest. What do you make of that?
Oh, we are so grateful for the maternal concern and care of the government about the Jodo Yatra and the COVID. Oh, just a little inconvenient question, Shreya. Where was this concern, maternal or otherwise, when the large rallies of the BJP in elections just a few weeks ago were involved? Where was it when COVID was much worse, when the BJP campaigned in Bihar? Or where was it when the march of the Prime Minister took place, a victory procession after the Gujarat results? Or is it a one-sided special care and concern for Rahul Gandhi and complete callousness for the BJP as far as the minister is concerned? I find it absolutely astonishing. Actually, what it shows is a complete fear and frustration at the remarkable success of the Yatra. So by hook or by crook, and more by crook and less by hook, you must do something to obstruct, delay, and avoid the Yatra. It's a most unbecoming, a most ridiculous, and a most untenable and unsustainable argument by the health ministry. They should have better things to do.
Okay, we'll leave it there. They have a lot to do actually right now. Possibly the guidelines could be changed as far as COVID is concerned. So the health ministry right now has its hands full. We'll leave it there for the moment. Mr. Singhvi, always a pleasure to speak to you here on Mirror Now. Thanks very much. With that, it's a wrap from me. And it's over to my colleague Afrida, who is joining you with all the headlines at the top of 7. So do stay with us.